Welcome to the Washington Heights Church podcast. We're so glad you're here. Each week, we bring you the latest Sunday message filled with God's Word to help strengthen your faith and deepen your walk with Christ. Whether you're tuning in from home, your commute, or anywhere in between, we're thrilled to have you join our community. So, grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's get started.
So we are in a season that we have come to call Love Gives, where for every week during Thanksgiving and Christmas, we do a project that is not about us. It's about people in our community or sometimes around the world. And as we're underway here, something very exciting happened the last couple of days here, didn't it?
Yeah, we just had a small little party over the past 2 days. Anybody part of that? Yeah, we packed over 200,000 meals for starving kids. These aren't hungry kids, starving kids that they will receive around the world. We'll get a notice in about 2 months, and we'll bring you an update of where our meals went. So I can't thank you guys enough for participating. It was a whirlwind.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
But on to the next thing, right?
On to the next thing
And
is
so
correct. And so we actually have some families. We only have 10 families of refugees who you guys can take to dinner. Now, it was very difficult to get these names, you can imagine, just through the process. And so what we thought would be a great connection is for individuals who are willing to grab a name and just take the families to dinner and just hear their story. Just kind of make it more personal. Instead of just giving a gift or something like that, just go hear their story. So we'll have those available in the information center just on the other side of that wall. And in addition to that, what we're looking at doing is that we have a friend in Haiti.
Yeah, and we were expecting more names, right? So we
We
only
were.
got the 10, but we came up with another idea.
Yep.
And we have known a family down in Haiti, the Guillemette family. And they are our connectors. We've taken teams down there, and you probably are aware that the situation in Haiti is desperate. I mean, it is shut down. There's violence happening. And our friends down there, they have two daughters who are college-age daughters, and they were afraid for their safety, as you can imagine. And so they sent them to the United States. And we have
That's
an
right.
opportunity to help.
We do. I got a call 2 months ago, and Guillaume called me like in the middle of the night, like, I got to send my daughters out. Would you take them? And my wife's like, how can we say no? I mean, they're fleeing. So they got them to Florida. And so he sent his daughters, they're 19 and 23. They have a limited visa, but they're trying to stay in the country, and he wants them to stay in the country, you can imagine. So, but they can't work because of their visa. They can't go to school yet because of their visa. So they have no livelihood, no way to have money, no way to live. They're staying with their uncle, who is already kind of strapped. But we would love to see the opportunity to be able to support them through another organization that will monitor it and make sure they have a livelihood. In fact, we had them do a message so you can see them and hear them personally. So just turn to the screen and watch this from them.
Hello, my name is Denley Guillemette. I'm 23 years old and I'm from Haiti.
Hello, I'm Lisa Guillemette. I'm 19 years old and I'm also from Haiti. We are sisters.
Haiti, for the past 4 years, has been going through a lot. Haiti have always been going through a lot, but over the past few years, things has been getting worse, experiencing things like political problems, economical problems, and social problems. We've been experiencing gang violence, violence on women and on children, kidnappings increasing every single day. We can't exclude the assassination of the president that completely destroyed our government. We are not spared from natural disasters, storms and earthquakes constantly setting us back. We recently experienced an earthquake back in August that completely destroyed the southern part of the country while still not being fully recovered from the earthquake back in 2010 that completely destroyed the whole country. There also is the coronavirus that really affected our healthcare system, plus the confinement that completely destroyed our economy. Because of all these problems back home, we decided to leave and to come here seeking for a safer and a more stable place to continue with our education. We contacted Pastor Jimmy and him and his wife were more than welcome to welcome us, but we are currently staying in Florida with our aunt and with our uncle, and we are also looking forward to pursue our education here. But being here, we are not allowed to work for a very long time, and the cost of living, the living expenses and the cost of education is very high here.
Yeah, but however, we would like to take this opportunity to thank this family that we have over there in Utah. Thank you to everyone that has ever contributed to the ministry. You guys have truly been a blessing to us. Thank you to Pastor Jimmy and his family, Pastor Roy and his family, and really anybody else that has ever contributed to the ministry. We love you. God bless you.
God bless you.
Pretty sweet, huh? So if you feel led, we'll definitely take the monies and support them too. We got something else coming up.
What's that?
Blue Christmas.
Blue
too.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to try something we've never done before, and maybe you are in this group of people that the holidays, right, are about joy and festivity and all of that, and maybe you're just not feeling it. You're just not there. Sometimes the holidays are really difficult for a lot of people. And we want to speak directly to that and provide an opportunity to gain some encouragement. And so if you are struggling during this holiday season, or maybe you know somebody that is, on Tuesday, December 14th, there's going to be a dinner at 6. The service in here is going to start at 7, and there's going to be an opportunity to hang out afterwards with some desserts as well. Jimmy's going to be speaking that night, and especially if your heart is a little bit heavy during this season, there's a place for you to go, and you will be encouraged.
You'll be loved.
Join us.
Yep. Thanks for everything, guys.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Jimmy, thanks, man. All right, let's turn our attention to the message for today. And we have been looking at the heart behind our Love Gives effort. And today we kind of turn the page and we go in the direction of some of the Christmas passages. And what we're going to do over the next number of weeks is look at some of the prophecies, the predictions of the coming of Jesus that was fulfilled at Christmas time. And to begin us in the direction that we're going to look at today, I want to talk and begin with a story about a party that involved a piñata. And the man that invented, or the person, woman maybe, who invented the piñata was either a genius or a sociopath, because it's either awesome or we're training kids to be violent for the reward of a lot of candy. And this story involves a party, and there was a kid being taken in there, and he did not want to go. And have you ever seen the kid, maybe you've experienced this too, like locked onto mom's leg, like, I don't want to go in there. Why don't you want to go in there? Something bad is going to happen. And mom says, I would never take you anywhere where something bad's going to happen. It's a party, for goodness sake. You're going to have fun. Something bad is going to happen. So the kids gather together and they, play a couple games. Well, this kid's just not having any of it. He's like, something bad is going to happen. And so when they gather to do the piñata, he goes off about 20 yards away, sits on the deck, doesn't even want to participate in that, and just kind of puts his head down. And meanwhile, back over at the piñata, the dad asks, so who wants to be the first? And it's always the most ADD kid in the crowd, right? They go, oh, me. I want to hit something with a bat. And so they blindfolded this kid, spun him around, but he's got this internal GPS. He makes his way right over to the piñata, kind of feels where it is, and then winds up and takes a massive swing. Goes underneath the piñata, swung so hard he releases the bat, expecting contact. It sails over the head of the kids about 20 yards, right onto the forehead of where the kid is saying, I knew something bad was going to happen. And this kid has one of those moments, we've all seen this, right? Where something happens and there's that moment of silence and you know what's coming on the other side of it, right? I knew something bad was going to happen. And I fear that might be a little bit of a picture of our day. That in a day like ours, we can feel like, something bad's going to happen. And here in the last year and a half, or better now, right, we've heard, one story after another of all kinds of things, whether they be social unrest or some of the viral things that are happening, and politics and friction and all kinds of difficulty. And in moments like that, it could be easy to not live so hopefully, but to think something bad is going to happen. So how do we live out genuine hope in a day like ours? Well, let's jump back in time to when a prophet by the name of Isaiah, he has a whole book that bears his name in the Old Testament. And Isaiah lived about 600 years before Christmas, before Jesus was born. And sometimes we may forget that the Bible was actually written by real people to real people in real life. And some of the things that are contained there were speaking to very specific situations. And we're going to see that today. Let me paint the picture for you a little bit in the book of Isaiah. The Assyrian army, the big dog nation of the day, is about to invade the northern kingdom of Israel. And the Assyrians are famous for their brutality. They invented some methods of torture that, under the Geneva Convention aren't even, allowed to be spoken, much less practiced. But they did it. And part of what Isaiah prophesied is, yes, they're going to come and they are going to conquer the nation, and they will actually be carried off into captivity. But you know what else? That's not all there is. There's more than just that part of the story. But the words that we're going to look at today speak to a real situation when it would have been really easy for people to say, something bad is going to happen. And if that is true, what hope do we really have? And God speaks in days like that. It's important for us to keep in mind as we look at what we're going to see over the next number of verses here. There's Isaiah's time, then there's Christmas, Jesus' first coming, and then there's a day coming in the future as well. And some of what Isaiah talks about that first coming. Some of what he talks about that second coming. But at a moment in time, when the days were kind of dark, God speaks hope into those days like these. So let's jump into it. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit. Now, what is that talking about? It's talking about the future when God would send the promised Messiah into this world. And where is he going to come from? And you notice that it is a shoot from the stump of Jesse. A shoot is a way to refer to somebody's lineage. So he's going to be a descendant of Jesse. Well, who is Jesse? Jesse, if you know anything about the history of Israel, he was the father of the greatest king that they ever had, a king named David. And so he's going to be a descendant in the line of David, whose father is Jesse. And sure enough, when Jesus is born, part of the tracing of the genealogy takes it right back to David. But you notice that's not all, because not only is it a shoot, do you also notice that it is from his root? A root is where you come from. How can you be both a root and a shoot? And what this paints a picture of is something that the Bible talks about that is completely unique. That the one who was going to come is not only a descendant of David, a man who would be in the line of David, but also someone who precedes him. The one out of whom Jesse came. Well, who can do that? Who can be that? Both the originator and the descendant. And there's only one. The God-man, Jesus. Being eternally and fully God the Son, who takes on human flesh, fully God, fully man, fulfilling a prophecy that had been pictured 600 years before it actually happened. And what this tells us is that God has a plan. And on the verge of the Assyrian Empire coming in, God says, that's not all there is, and let's not just get nearsighted with what stands in front of us, but there is a much bigger picture, and there is a God who has a plan. And in no uncertain terms, he says, it shall happen. God has a plan. And in days like this, maybe it's easy for us to think, man, the world's just out of control. There's just chaos and all kinds of different ways in which the world is not the way that it should be. Is anybody in charge around here? There is. And in a dark moment, God spoke hope. Yep, sometimes life is hard in this world, but that's not all that there is. And there is a God who still has a plan. And beyond that, he goes on to describe that plan, and in many ways predicts exactly what plays out at Christmas and even beyond. And what that tells us is God is going to get the last move. That no matter how difficult the days become, God's plan will ultimately be the way that things play out. God gets the last move. Not anything and anyone else, no matter the day in which we find ourselves. God has a plan. And then it goes on, it says, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the one who is coming, Jesus. The Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And fear there sometimes sounds strange to us. That is an awe-filled reverence for God. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what the eye see or decides disputes by what his ears hear. In other words, he doesn't judge a book by its cover. But do you notice how much wisdom is included in the one who is coming? He has the wisdom and the power, and a lot of times in this world you get one or the other. It's a rare thing when you find them both together. Wisdom and power. He knows what to do and he's able to do it. One of the things that's true about the wisdom of God is that time after time it confounds the wisdom of this world. The world would say wisdom is in this direction. It seems like God goes in the other direction. One place in the New Testament, it talks about how God has taken the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. God takes so much of what we think and turns it over and takes it in a different direction. I mean, think about this, just even in the way that the Messiah would come, the promised one that God was going to send to redeem the world and to transform things once and for all time. How would you come? In February, we're going to see another Super Bowl, which no doubt is going to include the Dallas Cowboys in it. Thank you for agreeing with me. And during that time, there will probably be, like there has been so many times, a flyover, and maybe people will jump out of airplanes and parachute into the stadium, and the crowd will go wild, and all the focus and attention will be on that. The lights will be bright. And if you think, man, if you're going to come into the world, that's how you do it. But how did God do it? Well, here's the plan. Be born in a small little out-of-the-way town, no lights. There'll be a feeding trough for you to be laid in. There'll be some cows and some sheep around. Some wild-eyed shepherds are going to come. They're the outcasts of society. And you're going to come in the most humble, vulnerable way you can imagine, as a baby. God's wisdom often is an affront to the wisdom of this world. It challenges the wisdom of this world. And if you were going to have a lasting impact in this world, how would you strategize for that? What kind of wisdom would you apply? Now, in this world, a lot of times we do strategic planning. You know what? We do some of that here. And maybe you do it where you work or even, in the life of your family. And how do we do that? And often it goes like this. We'll start with the end in mind and then come up with a strategy that is going to fulfill that end, that goal. All right, well, if the goal is that your words are going to be taken to every corner of this earth because every person matters. And in the world, 1/3 of the people would claim you as being in a relationship with you. And your words would form the very foundation of nations and an entire hemisphere of the world would be built on your values and principles. Awesome. How do you do that? Well, God did it by being born in a stable, in an out-of-the-way little province in the Roman Empire, with no power, no influence, at least positionally speaking. And, would we say about 3 years into that whole plan to make that goal a reality, here's the idea. Why don't you get executed as a criminal and see what kind of impact that has? The wisdom of God often confounds and even affronts the wisdom of this world. And we may say, yeah, that's great. Love it when God kind of pulls, that amazing, paradox, out of a hat. But here's where it gets personal too, because there's wisdom that applies to you and me. And it's the kind of wisdom that we would not come up with all by ourselves, because when he was here, Jesus would say things like this: if you really want to be set free from some of the strife, forgive. And we go, forgive? I need that score to be settled. He says, forgive. That's his wisdom. He says, you really want to gain your life, then don't hold on to it. That's the way to lose it. You want to gain your life, give it away. Just live a life that's marked by generosity of all different kinds. Your time, your energy, whatever. And the wisdom of God is so different than the wisdom that we often encounter in this world. About 100 years ago, in churches in America, there was this sense that, science has proven so much, and the Bible, one of the problems we have with it is it's filled with supernatural stuff, like miracles and things like that. And science has just done away with a lot of that. What we need to do is eliminate that, and we need to extract the ethical principles out of it so that we can become good people. But, for the most part, people are just kind of over that spectacular stuff, that magical stuff, that miracle stuff. And so that's what happened. 100 years later, when the trajectory, for a long time said, people just aren't going to buy into that. Intelligent people aren't going to take that step. And by and large, those churches are in steep decline. And yet faith in Jesus, supernatural faith of God's miraculous power, is exploding around the world. In Africa, it went from about 5% of people who follow Jesus to about 50% south of the equator. Southeast Asia, exploding. Countries like Korea, where 50% of the people claim a relationship with Jesus. And it is a supernatural faith. The wisdom of God often confounds the wisdom of this world. And what that means is we can trust him, but that's a lot easier said than done, because sometimes that is a real challenge because it gets very personal. And then this prophecy goes on, and should probably say this, in God's wisdom, God's going to get the last laugh. And not that he's laughing in a mocking sort of way, but the wisdom that he has put out there, so often viewed as foolishness, is going to prove to be true. And then it goes on, he's going to rule with justice or righteousness. He shall judge the poor. And sometimes we think, well, is he condemning the poor? That means he's going to bring them justice. He's going to judge on their behalf for them and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his loins. That means he's incorruptible. He can't be bought and manipulated. And Isaiah goes on to picture a number of things here, a series of things that tell us there is another day coming, a day that is different than this one. What is this talking about? There will be a day when he will end injustice, and justice will just roll like a river. But the day in which we live, where we find so much injustice, that will not be the last day. That will not be the final word. There's another day coming. And then the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the lion and the fatted calf together, and a little child shall lead them. All of those are pictures of the end of conflict as we know it. Because right now in the animal kingdom, right, when does a wolf lay down with a lamb like they're buddies? That doesn't happen, right? One winds up being dinner for the other one. And the leopard shall lie down with the young goat. These are pictures that one day conflict will end. I saw some amazing pictures that might picture this for us, things that are not normally close, that are not normally in relationship, that will become the norm. Even mortal enemies will be at peace with one another, right? There is goodness and righteousness with evil. No, I'm just kidding. Mortal enemies who are now together. Some of it gets a little weird, and you got things like that. I don't even know what's going on there. And the picture that Isaiah paints is that there's another day coming right now. We know a lot about conflict, but one day he, the one who was promised, will end conflict, and the world will not be the way that it is, in the way that we know it. And then the description goes on, the nursing child shall play over the hole of a cobra, and a weaned child shall put his hand in the adder's den. Doesn't that sound like a nice outing for the kids? They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. What is that talking about? Those are pictures of pain, and even the kind of pain that can ultimately result in death. And so there's a picture here that one day, there's going to be no more pain. That pain will end, and pain will be no more. Can we imagine a day when there will be no more? No more wheelchairs, no more chemo, no more COPD, no more viruses. There's a day when that will be the reality, and it's hard for us to imagine in a day like this, but God says, make no mistake about it. There's a day coming when pain will end, and it will be different than it is now. So if you find yourself in one of those darker days, know this, that is not the only way it's ever going to be. And then it gets even more amazing, if that's possible. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. How do the waters cover the sea? Completely, right? I mean, that's all there is water covering the sea. What does this mean? It means that one day he is going to end religion. And how is that going to happen? Because his presence will be so front and center that there will be no need for us to gather like this to talk about God and understand him, because he will be there. And all those who have put their hope and trust in him will experience that kind of reality. Here's what it says in the book of Jeremiah. No longer shall each one teach his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me. We won't have to invite a friend at that time. For the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord, for I will forgive their iniquity and I'll remember their sin no more. These are people who have come to the end of themselves and put their hope and their trust in the God who has come to their rescue. And one day there's coming an unending moment of being in the presence of God, and people like me are going to have to find something else to do. Because God is going to be there. And you won't have to put up with bad football jokes anymore. This is in the book of Revelation, talking about the second time Jesus comes, and I saw no temple in that city, for its temple is the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb. And no need for a building like this, because where is that place we go to meet with God? It is with God. What do all those pictures mean? Not only does God get the last move in the plan. Not only does he get the last laugh when his wisdom is proven true, God gets the last word. The last word about what? The last word about everything. About everything. There's another day coming. And so in a day like ours, where we live somewhere in between these two comings of Jesus, there will be days in which, it might look pretty dark. What are we to do in those days? We have hope, because there's a God who said there's another day coming. And he got the predictions right about the first time Jesus came, right down to minute details. What would that indicate to us about what he's predicted is yet to come? So let me ask you this as we wrap this up. What would it look like in real life? Not just something that we know, but something that makes its way into how we live, into how we speak, into how we react to the news of every day, how we think and invite the people maybe who are far from God. What would it look like to know? Not just to have the information, but to have a deep-seated confidence that there is a God who has said, there's another day coming. What would it look like to know that you matter to God? Because all that he did, including his coming and offering himself on a cross, was for you. You matter that much to him. What would it look like to know that you matter to God and he will make all things right one day? What if a group of people in days like these lived out the hope that is found in the reality of God's promises? There's another day coming. And there is nothing and there is no one that will have the final word, the final laugh, or the final say. God will. What would that look like? Let's pray. So God, in days like this, may our hope and our confidence be in you. And God, how easy it is to look around and wonder where all of this is going. But God, I pray that we would continue to understand that there is a sovereign God, a God in control, and you're taking all of this somewhere. And with you, it is somewhere good. And while all of that is so much bigger than us, God, thank you that it includes us. And by your invitation, we are invited to experience life together with you in real time, with real hope that is found not in us, but in you. And so God, lead us toward living out that kind of hope in days like this. And may it be only for your honor and for your glory. And so we ask and pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
We hope you enjoyed today's message. If you found this sermon meaningful, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more people and spread the word. Stay connected with us throughout the week by following us on social media at Washington Heights Church on Facebook and Instagram, and by visiting our website at whc.faith. For more information and additional resources, check out the podcast description below. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.